Namaste, Vanakkam, Namaskaram. I'm Jody Kollapen and you are watching Sadhana, the Inward Path, right here on 3. We've come to the end of this season's Sadhana, but not without another jam-packed episode today. Anuradha, Kugan and Lokeshji have kept us company throughout Sadhana Season 7, and they wrap up this season's offerings with more gems to keep us safely on our spiritual journey. We also take a peek at the Benoni Hindu Seva Samaj and catch up with their vibrant Garba. But first on the show today is a visit to Cheif Justice Jody Kollapen at the High Court in Pretoria. Jody Kollapen is an acting justice of the Constitutional Court of South Africa since July 2017 and has also served as a judge of the High Court of South Africa. He is the chairperson of the South African Law Reform Commission and served as the head of the South African Human Rights Commission. These incredible accomplishments were built on his foundation years in Marabastad, Pretoria, where he experienced life's inequalities and saw the need for dharma or righteousness.
I was born in Marabastad in 1957 and spent the first 12 years of my life there. It was what people may call a glorified slum. People living in very close proximity to each other under very difficult conditions, and we just had to look across the river to see how white South Africa lived. So even if you were not politically inspired, a simple reflection of that reality would tell you, even as a child, that there was something drastically wrong in your society. But they were also wonderful years in a sense. It might seem a contradiction that despite the poverty, there was a wonderful sense of community. There was a sense of belonging. Religion was a strong factor. There were churches, there were mosques, there were temples. And so people defined themselves in part by their religion, but also in many respects by their common humanity. And so festivals were celebrated together. Eid, Diwali, Christmas, Easter was a time for celebration for everybody. And it was wonderful because even though you grew up in a Hindu home, you regarded yourself and you conducted yourself as part of a broader community. My mum was very much active in the Pretoria Tamil League, which was established in about 1904, and we would go to Tamil school as young kids. It was one street away, and so the temple was a center really of activity for the community. It wasn't just a place to go to worship, it was a place where people got married. It was a place where social events were held. It was a place where political meetings were held. So in that sense, a big part of one's life was defined both by the physical location of the temple, but also in terms of what it came to represent, more than simply a place where religion and culture was advanced. And we grew up in that culture. My mum worked as a machinist in a factory in Johannesburg. And if she would be late for coming back home, because she would have to catch a train and a bus, she was assured in the knowledge that there were 10 other mothers in the yard who would make sure that her children had a plate of food to eat and they would be safe. And so that sense of security was taken away from people. They were offered, obviously, a better physical place to live in, but they were far removed from their beloved place of worship. They were far removed from the place of work. And so it was painful in many respects. The cruelty of the Group Areas Act, I think, still lingers on today. And it's strange that today many people speak very fondly of life in the old location, in the old Marabastad. Started living in Lodium when I was 12 years old, so it was a wonderful time in one's own development. But the old Marabastad was still very much a part of our lives. And I think in many ways it's a wonderful testimony to our forefathers and mothers who came here in 1860. I mean, they came with nothing and they made something out of nothing. And I think that same kind of spirit characterized those people who were forced to move to Lodium. They didn't like the situation they found themselves in, but they did the best to discharge the important duty they had. And that duty was to clothe and educate and feed their children. It was to keep alive their culture and their religion, and they did wonderfully well. So I'm immensely proud to still be part of that community, and that's where I still live. And so all of that, I suppose, in its own way, began to shape, in a sense, my own, the DNA of my career. In the early 80s, at a time when South Africa was burning, when we had the tricameral elections, we had P.W. Botha really waging war on people, and so the resistance of people was strong and powerful, and you felt proud to really be part of that rich tradition of resistance, of fighting injustice. After practicing as a lawyer for 12 years, I joined an organization called Lawyers for Human Rights, which was a human rights organization comprising mainly of lawyers, and became the head of that organization. And then joined the Human Rights Commission in early 1997, worked there for 13 years, and I was privileged to be the chairman of the Human Rights Commission for 7 years, and now judge for 8 years. So when I look back on my life, I think I'm absolutely privileged to have been able to do the work that I love doing, getting a salary for it, and making a contribution to my society. We've come through more difficult periods in our history, but the challenges we face now are formidable challenges as well. Besides crime and discrimination, poverty and inequality is also a major problem. The fact that 12 million people may go to bed tonight hungry while we produce enough food as a country is not sustainable. If we commit ourselves to the principles and values of human dignity, of equality, of sharing, then we perhaps have a better chance of succeeding as a society. I think it was Mahatma Gandhi, if I remember, saying that the rich need to learn to live more simply, so that the poor can simply live. And so I ask myself sometimes, and I think we must each ask ourselves that question: do I have more than I need? And if I have more than I need, and the answer to that is yes, then what am I doing to contribute towards a better society? Because I think moving away from the communal living of the Marabastad that I described, where we had really nothing, we've become quite material creatures, where we accumulate wealth, and we can justify it quite easily. We can say we need a better house, we need a safer car, we need a better school for our children. But really the focus is then on me and not on us. And I know it's not easy, but I think inequality probably remains the biggest challenge in our society, and that's the one that we can all do something about in our small spaces. We all have the ability to change the little spaces, that I should just treat you with respect because you're a fellow human being. It's a simple message, but it's a powerful message. Even if I can't give anything to anybody, just treating them with respect, recognizing their humanity and dignity is one way to proceed here.